Is Operation Mockingbird still in play and our government is funding propaganda? I don't know. My background is as an American history teacher and government and economics and civics and things like that. And the CIA Operation Mockingbird is something that a lot of people are not aware of, but essentially what Operation Mockingbird was, and this came to light in 1973 under the Church hearings with Senator Frank Church, revealed that the CIA, the Central Intelligence Agency, was involved in direct influence over American journalistic enterprises. So we're talking about big ones: CBS, New York Times, New York Post, Time Magazine, Washington Post, all these different ones, and they were involved in manipulating the information that was going out from these big legacy media companies. And the CIA was always involved in propaganda overseas to try and stop the spread of communism. That was a big idea of the containment theory during the Cold War. Excuse me. But what's being revealed now, this was supposedly shut down then. It was shut down in the 1970s. Is it? Because what's being revealed now with everything going on with USAID and the funding going to different media organizations, that there's government funding, whether it's through USAID or the State Department or whatever, there's government funding going towards media companies. For what? Is it to just push strong journalistic standards of seeking the truth? Why would the government fund that if it's something that's negative about the government? It doesn't really make sense. It's not in their best interest. So when Elon Musk bought Twitter, he spent $44 billion to essentially be a whistleblower in his own company. He did the Twitter files. So he gave all of the internal emails from the company of Twitter to Matt Taibbi, Michael Schellenberger, Barry Weiss, and others. And what they revealed was that the government was directly working with Twitter. They had regular meetings putting pressure on Twitter to silence certain things and to promote other things. Now, could Twitter have said, no, we're not doing that yet? You could. But why would you go against the intelligence agencies? You might remember that Chuck Schumer, longstanding senator, said about Donald Trump, he's like, don't go after the intelligence agencies. Don't go after intelligence because they have 6 ways to Sunday to go after you if you do that. So the president better not touch the CIA. So the CIA is obviously very, very powerful. So Mark Zuckerberg revealed this as well. Mark Zuckerberg was talking about recently on Joe Rogan that they came and they said, you should silence this COVID narrative or that COVID narrative. They said that stories are going to come out right before the Hunter Biden laptop story came out. The stories are going to come out that are Russian disinformation. Okay, so be on the lookout for that. The Hunter Biden laptop story became this big thing. 51 intelligence or former intelligence officers, said that this is Russian disinformation. Do you know who didn't say it was Russian disinformation? Do you know who didn't deny it? Hunter Biden. It's clearly true. And is this that big of a news story? Not really. Hunter Biden's a wild dude. He does crazy stuff, and he did crazy stuff. He did the hookers and the money and all that kind of stuff. And then he put his laptop in this computer fix-it store in Delaware, and he forgot about it. It's not that. It's the fact that it looks bad potentially for Joe Biden. And in the 2020 election, we don't want to present anything that looks bad at Joe Biden, because what happened in 2016 with Hillary Clinton and her server, and she was sending classified information across an unsecure server. And that looked bad on Hillary Clinton. Whether or not it was a big deal, that's up for debate. But it looked bad, and people said that the fact that news organizations released that about Hillary Clinton helped Donald Trump get the presidency. So we shouldn't do that again, and that seems like what happened in 2020. So a guy named Mike Benz. Mike Benz is a former official with the U.S. State Department. He's also the current executive director of the Foundation for Freedom Online, which is a free speech organization, watchdog organization, to try and promote the promise of a free internet. Okay. So, cut down internet censorship. And Mike Benz went on the Joe Rogan podcast and the Sean Ryan podcast, and he was revealing certain things. So I'm going to play a couple of clips of what he said. And this is a guy who's very credentialed. He knows this stuff, and he's revealing it, on these massive platforms. Because if you reveal it on these massive platforms, you can't shut down Joe Rogan. He's too big. Like, what are you going to do? You're going to censor him? Like, enough people know about him that they can raise a fuss. So part of the CIA is you have to be surreptitious. You have to be very tricky about how you do things. You don't want to look guilty. Okay. So he said a couple of things. Here's some clips about what Mike Benz believes is happening. And this is all stuff that you can go out and fact check and things like that. But he actually talks about fact checking. And if you say like, well, is he telling the truth? Let me check my fact checkers. But what he's saying is the fact checkers are also bought and paid for by the government. Then how do you know what's true? Really, really tough. Here's some clips of Mike Benz.
Their revenues are padded up the wazoo by a huge cash infusion to assist their line of business. You see this everywhere. NewsGuard, for example, one of the most notorious private sector for-profit censorship mercenary firms with the former head of NATO on its board, the former head of DHS on its board, the former head of the State Department's Global Engagement Center on its board, you name it. Mark Milley, the former head of the CIA, NSA, I'm sorry, not Mark Milley, General Michael V. Hayden, the former head of the CIA, NSA, four-star general, on his board, they got a $750,000 Pentagon contract, nominally for the purpose of helping the Pentagon, scan the internet to help scan and ban, Chinese and Russian propaganda online. Now, as this new MAGA foreign policy coalition and base has to navigate the tension between foreign ops and domestic interests. We have to navigate what the role is of countering foreign influence and countering foreign propaganda, squaring that with the fact that that was the exact predicate used to take out hundreds of thousands and arguably millions of Trump supporters at home when Trump was called a Russian asset. And Trump was just like Putin. Trump equals Putin. The FBI is saying it. The CIA is saying it. And you had tens of thousands of American citizens who were rolled up in these very groups who were supposed to be focused on Russia, making the argument that, well, these Americans are being an unwitting or unwitting vassal of talking points from Russia. So now we get to put them in these blacklist database. Now we get to, so that's a tension that has to be navigated. But the point is, however you navigate it, that $750,000 Pentagon grant to NewsGuard was not explicitly for NewsGuard to create advertiser blacklists to target Steven Crowder and Ben Shapiro and Prager University and Fox News hosts and virtually every populist right-wing media conduit for the man who is now the sitting democratically elected president of the United States. Why do places like the Poynter Institute and almost every one of the credentialed fact checkers for Facebook and Reddit and Twitter 1.0 and TikTok and Twitch and YouTube, why are almost every single one of these groups are either directly or partnered with a U.S. State Department? It's because we use this international fact-checking network, which is housed under the Poynter Institute, as the way to get foreign countries to censor their internet, to stop the rise of politicians, whether they be right-wing populist or left-wing socialist sometimes, to stop them, to censor their internets. We pump up these American fact-checker groups, and then they get sent to Myanmar, and they get sent to the Philippines, and they get sent to Brazil, and they get sent to Latvia and Lithuania and Estonia. 2018, the front cover of their Democratic Disinformation, Defense Against Disinformation, one of their series in this, which was an internet censorship propaganda document and consensus building document so that the Atlantic Council's muscle as NATO's think tank could go out to all of their different grantees and partner networks about who to censor, how to sell it, how to do it, what connections to establish with the tech companies and these governments. The front cover of this, and everyone can look this up, was the the so-called Macron leaks in France and the distribution web of basically news stories that were damaging to Emmanuel Macron in the middle of his presidential run against Marine Le Pen, who USAID and the U.S. State Department, this is Western Europe, this is where USAID ain't supposed to be, we're told. The front cover, that's funded by USAID, has WikiLeaks at the center of this, Jack Posobiec as the other main highlighted node, a U.S. citizen, and the whole rest of the network map are all the different distributions of stories about these Macron leaks that helped Marine Le Pen but hurt their preferred winner of that election, Emmanuel Macron. And what they were suggesting with that is that we need to stop Jack Posobiec and WikiLeaks from publishing news stories that might help Marine Le Pen in Western Europe win that election. And that's USAID sponsored, baby. They're touching every plot of dirt on God's green earth.
Jeez. So a couple of different clips there. Look, at the end of the day, it's all this game that's being played. It's this manipulation game of sometimes bending the rules, using loopholes and stuff within the law, using funding, tricky funding things. You fund this big organization and then they have a media wing to it. Or it's outright breaking the law because they're the lawmakers. They're the people, they're in the executive branch. So maybe not the lawmakers, that's more on the legislative branch, but with executive orders and everything, that's still making policy. But they're the ones who enforce the laws. So if the ones who are enforcing the laws are breaking the laws, then what do you do? So by no means do I want to put this out there for you guys to be cynical to the point where like hopeless. Like there's nothing I can do. This is just a corrupt government and it is what it is and I'm stuck here. No. Ask questions. Okay. We have the First Amendment. The First Amendment is freedom of the press. And our founding fathers knew the importance of the freedom of the press. And now, because we all have a phone, now we're all the press. So we need to use this as a way to step forward and start asking questions and not be indifferent. My online education platform, Patterdocs, is all about pattern recognition. And I'm looking at the patterns of the past, the way that our government has manipulated news stories of the past, going all the way back to the Spanish-American War around the turn of the century. And William Randolph Hearst famously said, you furnish the pictures, I'll furnish the war. Just give me some pictures and I'll get us some propaganda. It could be the war on drugs and the way that Hearst, again, made marijuana and other drugs illegal to try and promote this, drugs are bad campaign. Okay. So all this kind of stuff happens. We look at these patterns throughout history and we try to use those patterns to say, is this still happening now? Are these patterns continuing or has the CIA completely changed their way? But there's a pattern of the CIA getting involved in media over and over and over again. And it really is a way to get you out there to be incentivized and motivated to go ask questions. And my platform, Patterdocs, has stuff for adults. So we have the Patterdocs Roundtable, which is a Telegram channel and Zoom conversations where we are sharing information that we find. Okay, that's free from big tech censorship. But I also have a whole curriculum and structure for teenagers to start people young, start them early, asking questions, questioning things about their government. The way that the Constitution, I have a civics class, I have a U.S. history class, I have a sociology class. But in the civics class, one of the things I talk about is the structure of the Constitution is very clear. It's prevent the government from getting too powerful. The language of the Constitution is not you're allowed to do this or you're allowed to do that. It's that the government can't do this. The government can't do that. That's very specific. Our founding fathers knew that the government needed to be limited by a document. That's the Constitution, and we need to uphold the Constitution. So I hope that this is just like a starting point. This is just like the first couple of steps of a relay race. You take this, you go, let me look into this Operation Mockingbird a little bit. Let me look into where the funding is going. Let me watch some of these podcasts and stuff. And it's really hard to know what's true. So the way to find truth is to keep asking questions. Do not just accept whatever narrative, one that supports your beliefs, one that goes against your beliefs, one that support your politicians, one that goes against your politicians. Keep asking questions. I would love to know your thoughts on whether or not the CIA is actually involved in media manipulation, everything going on right now. Share your thoughts in the comments. Thank you so much.